Hey guys, so today we're going to focus on some writing. We spent some time talking about text types, and today we are going to write about a social issue, and you're going to disagree with somebody. All right, let's get started. So, what I want you to do is sorry, I'm trying to make myself in the right spot here. Okay, you are going to disagree with somebody on any issue you want to. So the important thing is to think of an issue that you understand. You know, if you argue, you need to know both sides. Most arguments have two sides, and it's good if you want to if you want to win an argument, you need to know what they will say, okay? And you might wonder, why are we using Chris Wong? Well, most of the time when you do writing for an exam, then you're supposed to put Chris Wong as the name. That's just the name they always say. You should write Chris Wong. You shouldn't actually put a real name, like let's say Carrie Lam or Donald Trump. Instead, you're gonna use Chris Wong. Okay, so think about what text type we are going to use and how to argue in a good way. Okay? So I mentioned this in class. Make sure if you have a title that all the top basically is capitalized except for the small words, and then the bottom, just the first word. So we went over this in class, but this is important. A lot of people make mistakes on this. Make sure you do have paragraphs or bullet points. It's just to organize your information. And I suggest for this, you should have at least 3 paragraphs. It's very easy to make it a beginning, middle, and end. You can have more. Sometimes 2 is okay. But in general, you want to have 3. It makes it easier for you to be organized. Okay. When you're doing your writing, you want to be direct. You want to say in the first sentence why you are writing. You're not going to, most of these are just going to be 1 page long. So at the very beginning, you want the reader to know why you are writing this. It's going to be different if you're writing a short story. Maybe you're trying to get their interest. Or let's say you're giving a presentation. Maybe you would ask questions, but for this, it's important to say, I'm writing because, okay? So a suggestion I always give you is, who should you write for? You know, what is your target audience? Is it for 1 person or many people? Are they going to be, let's say, professional adults or children? Your vocabulary will be very different. You're not going to use really difficult words if you're writing to children. If you're writing to professionals, then yes, you probably would use very advanced words if you can. And you're thinking about text types. Well, do you need an address? That's going to be if you want them to be able to reply, if you want them to be able to find you. Sometimes that's important, sometimes that's not. Usually you want to be direct. You want to have paragraphs. It's also important to think about formal or informal. If you're writing to a friend, you could say, "What's up? You doing all right?" If you're writing to a boss, probably, "Dear principal, dear Chris Wong." You would want to make it obviously more formal. So again, this topic we're doing today is you want people to know that you disagree with someone on a social issue. That'll be Chris Wong. Okay? So think of a social issue that you would understand both sides. Okay? And this is the example in the PowerPoint I have here is waste charging. But here, let's go to the brainstorming. Okay, right now, let's do this part right here. And let me make that a little bigger. Okay, so I need a social issue let's just think of social issues right now. Remember, when you're doing your pre-writing, there's no bad ideas. So a lot of students were saying things like smoking. Man, that is a social issue. Drug abuse, internet addiction, the wealth gap, school stress. When you're brainstorming, it's okay to pause for a second and really think. You don't have to write nonstop, but make sure you're not thinking about other things. You're just focused on this. Also, you're just writing one page usually if you're doing the listening exam. And even if you're doing the writing exam, then usually 1 or 2 pages. So a narrow topic will help you score the best because you can talk about it in 2 pages. If you were to talk about something big like the protests in Hong Kong, that's a good issue to talk about, and you have both sides, but how can you do that in 1 page? All right? So the example that I already had on the PowerPoint and I mentioned in class that I would like to do is waste charging, which is when you have to pay to throw trash out. The Hong Kong government has been saying they want to start this for a while. Okay, I'm just going to put down some other ones. Air pollution, traffic. Well, I'm not sure if that's really a social issue, but public housing crisis, minimum wage. Okay. So now I've spent 5 minutes. I suggest when you're doing your exam, your test, you actually would have like your watch out and you can see how much time you have left, or you can look at the clock so that you can pace yourself. You spend a few minutes preparing, you spend, we'll say 10, 15, or about 15, 20 minutes preparing, about 30, 35 minutes on your writing, and then at the end, about 5, 10 minutes to clean it up and fix it. It's a lot better to prepare and make it the right way instead of fixing it at the end. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and think of which of these are good. Okay, smoking. It is a social issue, but what's the opposite side of that? Smoking is good? That would be very hard to debate about. I mean, I could think of something. You could talk about freedom and choice, but I don't think that this is a good topic because it's hard to write the opposite side. Drug abuse, again, I think would be hard. So, I think minimum wage could be interesting because some people would argue that having a low minimum wage will help the economy and that you create more jobs. And if you raise the minimum wage, then you'll have fewer jobs and it could hurt the economy. The cost of business would go up, inflation. So again, it doesn't matter which side you're on, but at least here you kind of have something maybe you learned in economics class that you could talk about both sides. But again, I wanted to focus on this one, waste charging. Okay? So, I am going to do this one, but I do think minimum wage is a good one. Here, for example, public housing. I think most people would agree that it would be good if we were to have more of that. But where? Maybe the disagreement is to reclaim near Lantau. So maybe you know that the government is thinking about turning the ocean into a big city near Mui Wo. And that might not be a good idea. Maybe they should put it around Yulong and Longping. That would be my argument, because it's land. It doesn't hurt the environment, it's cheaper. But here, I think that could be an interesting one, about where to put the public housing. School stress. You could easily take both sides on that. That stress, maybe it will help you push harder. It will help you to learn more. I disagree. I would say that school stress is bad, but maybe Chris Wong thinks school stress is a good thing. I think that one you could talk about. And that you think that it's too much. That we should have a different system. Okay, but again, for mine, I'm choosing waste charging, partly because I think most of you will not choose it, and I want to have one that's different from what you did. Okay, so I'm going to do waste charging, and I don't have a pen and pencil, so here I'm just going to try to do brainstorming like this. Me and Chris Wong. I think it's good. We can reduce waste. Hong Kong produces lots of waste per capita, which means per person. Both are okay words, phrases. It will encourage recycling. Those are the main reasons. I can get started on Chris Wong now. What would be the argument against it? Well, basically, it's like a tax. Not fair to the poor. Hard to enforce. By that, I mean that if you have waste, well, you can still you could throw it in a rubbish bin here at school, and you don't have to pay for that, or one on the street. Or some people would just throw it out in places. It would be a law that's hard to enforce. But the nice thing now that I'm brainstorming is that I can think of the argument against it. Like right here, most people would say this is the big one. It's not fair to the poor. Especially now, because with the economy bad, this is a big issue. So maybe I would say subsidies, which again means money help. That would be, I think of what the other side says, and then I can think of the defense to argue against them. Okay. So I feel pretty good. I can put why I disagree with Chris Wong and why I believe that he's wrong. Okay. So let's also go back here. And look at the text type. Okay, so dear sir, that would be to the editor, the person who is the boss at the newspaper. You're not going to say dear Chris Wong, because you're not writing to Chris Wong. You are writing, you want this to be in the newspaper so that many people can see you disagree with Chris Wong. Okay, and you want to be formal. It's always good to be polite, especially when you argue with somebody. They have some useful expressions right here. Again, you want to be clear. You don't need an address, because let's say they disagree, you don't want them to know where you live. You're just trying to get this in the newspaper. And then, again, you would want something kind of formal at the end. You could say, yours faithfully. I don't like to use that one. It's not American style. American style would be more sincerely, or yours sincerely. Faithfully, yours faithfully is more British. Both are fine though. But notice how this is short. It's going to be in the newspaper, so you want to make it very direct. You want people to read it. Okay, so now the opening is very important, so I'm going to spend a little time right now on that. Dear editor. Many people, including Chris Wong, have been saying that waste charging is bad because it hurts the poor. Don't need a comma there. While he has a point. Well, let's even make this simpler. Never mind. Because I'm changing my mind right here as I go along. While he has a point, I must respectfully disagree because Hong Kong needs waste charging. So here I put it in the second sentence. Maybe it would even be better if you have it in the first sentence. Either way is fine. It's something that you want to work with, and then you'll know when it's better. But here, still, it's pretty direct. I'm saying I'm disagreeing with Chris Wong. Let me see. Let me just see if I can make one that I like more, because often the first one you write isn't your best one. So here, I'll try again. Dear editor. I'm going to keep with very simple language right here. Okay. So now I just wrote two openings, and I like the second one more because it's focusing on waste charging, my topic, and then I still talk about I disagree with Chris Wong, but the most important thing is I'm talking about waste charging and why I think we need it. So I think I'm going to go with this one. I like it a little bit more. Okay? Here, now, I'm just going to go ahead and write it out. Okay. Also, I'm going to see, is there anything that I can make this better? Okay, I'm trying to score well. Hong Kong needs waste charging. Ooh, Hong Kong urgently needs waste charging. Some people. Now, the word earlier that I said was, critics. That's a better word than some people. Critics is, here, wait, I'm gonna, see if I can, okay, I'm gonna have the changes here now. Okay? So you can see where I change it. Hong Kong urgently needs waste charging as we produce more waste per person. Oh, and again, like per capita, that is a term that you would know if you were in like statistics or economics. They say per capita. It means per person. So again, we're trying to bump up. We're trying to get a better score. Again, critics, because it is bad for the poor. Now I just used a word that maybe you don't know, disproportionately. That's fine. I mean, you want to, I'm trying to make it as good as I can. Disproportionately means, oops, did I misspell that? Yeah. Excuse me. Well, disproportionately means it hurts the poor more than anybody else, which is true. $50 hurts a poor family way more than a rich family. So the word there would be disproportionately. But again, you could say hurts more. This is a synonym. And this is one of the reasons I always say try to work on your synonyms. I must respectfully disagree. So here, like a good word I used before was subsidies. Recycling. This is when we're brainstorming, this is where I could try to think of the words that I'm going to use. However, I must respectfully disagree. Okay, so I just made the opening paragraph better. I feel good about it now. Take this off. Okay. Oh. This is going to go back to the points I said earlier. It needs to encourage recycling and reduce waste. By charging for now I even make spelling mistakes sometimes. Now, this basically means use. Implementing, yeah, that means that the government is going to start something, or it could be a company. The company is implementing. It means using a new plan, let's say. By using waste charging, people will have the incentive to... Now, we already used the words recycling and reduce waste, and so I don't want to repeat that again. You want to use new words. What's maybe another phrase for that? To live greener lives. Okay. It's Chris Wong. Now for this, let's just say Chris Wong is a famous person that people follow. Okay, Chris Wong said that waste charging would hurt the poor. That's a good argument against it, that if you have to pay an extra $50 a month to throw away rubbish, right now it's free, that does affect a poor family a lot. Or we don't know if it's 50, if it's 100, but for this it doesn't matter. It's just you have to pay something. It's not good, especially for poor people. Which is why Hong Kong should provide subsidies. And subsidies again means money help. So every family should get a certain amount of rubbish bags for free. So if they are able to live a relative green life, they won't pay. The only people that would pay are the ones who are doing the most polluting. So I feel good about that. This is going to be 4 paragraphs. So I have the opening, and then this is kind of my side, paragraph 2. Paragraph 3 is talking about what Chris Wong thinks and why he's wrong. And now, I've already used first person. I said I must respectfully disagree, so we can continue in first person. It won't be perfect, but I strongly believe it is a step in the right direction to help make Hong Kong a better place. All right. So here, we're disagreeing, and I'm saying, I'm not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. That's a very polite, nice way to debate, to argue. We don't want to just call people idiots. We want to try to make them agree with us. We want them to maybe come to our side. So last little bit here, let's go back. All right. Just the ending. something nice. We don't need to sign this because it's going to go to the newspaper. We don't need an address. I don't need to put my work position. So I'm just going to put sincerely, Sean King. All right. So again, I feel good about this. I'm talking about waste charging. You pay to throw away rubbish. I used some words here that were good, like per capita, recycling, subsidies. Notice I didn't use all my ideas like hard to enforce. Yeah, that is an issue. And I think it's hard to talk about in this many words. Let's see how many words we got here. About 200, I think. Oh, 150. So this might be a little bit on the short side. I wasn't keeping track of them. So I guess that would be something that I could improve on, but we didn't even ask for a word count before. So it doesn't matter. I just wanted to be direct. If I was to add, I would probably add in this paragraph right here, talk more about the benefits of doing this. About how, okay, like here for example, the money gained from waste charging could go into funding the recycling industry, which would what's a good way? Which would, we've already said the word help a lot. What's another word for help? How about assist? Well, we could say assist the industry further, but okay. I know that it would be confusing for you, a recycling industry. You could say that, but it would. How about here, instead of could, I just realized should. You know, that's another argument. People might say, oh, we don't want taxes. They'll spend them the wrong way. Well, we could say it should go to funding the recycling industry, which could help expand the availability of recycling. Because in Hong Kong, there's a lot of places you just can't recycle at, or you can't recycle materials. So, okay, I just added a bit right there where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's closer to about 200 words, which was what I was aiming for. You could still add a little bit more, but the important thing is that it's direct, and I took out those easy words and replaced them with hard words. So please leave comments, message me, let me know if there's anything I could do to help, and have a great day. See ya.